Okay. Good morning, CLC.
Good morning.
And I'm about to say that again in just a second. And I'll take 3. Good morning, CLC.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everyone on Facebook, thank you for bearing with us. We're having a kooky little morning, but it's all fun and good, and we're happy you are here. We're happy you're joining us. Happy early birthday to Ruth. We want to say happy early birthday. Tomorrow will be her birthday, so everyone please wish her well. And we are happy again that you are here with us. We invite you to relax in this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Put your week before you aside. Put the week ahead of you aside. Breathe into this moment and be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you now to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words, I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, and seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled, and gratefully speak these words, I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now in my mind eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning, but I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to anyone around me or to anyone virtually around me, and joyfully speak and share gratitude and confidence and say to them, I am grateful for the good in all of your lives.
I am grateful for the good in all of your lives.
Grateful for the good in all of your lives.
That I can't thank enough for Reverend Lisa Ryan, Danielle Mercadell, Jeffrey Oshman, Melody Berryman, Kenzie Berryman, Brian Schwanitz, who's out of town right now, but he's been on this stage with us as we opened the month. And I'm Jesse Jennings, and this is Creative Life Spiritual Center, and we miss you in our rooms, and we will have you back as soon as we reasonably can. And that means where you're comfortable and you're safe, and we can take good care of you, and at the same time, not put our staff through too many paces here, because people work and people are having to disinfect and they're having to maintain the spaces in their workplaces, and it's not fair to them to have to come in here on Sunday and have to drench the whole place in bleach every time somebody moves a few feet. So as soon as, plus you're comfortable at home. I know you are. I know you say you want to be here on Sundays, and we all appreciate that, but I know you're home in your jammies and you got food in your lap and you're doing all kinds of things that wouldn't be appropriate out in public. So it's good that you should be there, and you can also disengage. See, like if you're in the room and we're having a service, you feel like you have to pay attention or make eye contact. And I see the glazed eyes sometimes, and I see the reflection of the phone off of your glasses and this. And at home you can multitask. You can have the TV on, and you can pause us. And you can pause us and blow us off for a day or two and then come back and pick it back up. So you've got all kinds of options there. So we want you comfortable and happy. And we're happy to be able to do this for you. And the center is doing wonderfully. Let me just tell you, we're here. The garden looks great. It's in full bloom. People.
Thank you,
Sean. And Sean Connolly. Let me tell you, Sean Connolly. Also, I drove by here the other night to pick up the mail. And I just went into the front parking lot, and there was somebody out here working in the garden who was not Sean, and I don't know who it was. In fact, I didn't recognize them or their car. So if that was you, thank you very much. We have a plan that we're working on gradually for sometime early this summer to maybe begin reintegrating into the space here, but all of that's going to depend. So in the meantime, you got me on Sunday mornings, and you got Lisa Ryan, Reverend Lisa Ryan, every morning of the week on Facebook Live, and you've got Reverend David Dewhurst every day of the week at 5 p.m. And speaking of birthdays, his was what? Thursday? Friday? Something like that. Happy birthday, Reverend David. So it's birthday season here at Creative Life. And what I wanted to talk about today, I don't know, it changes. I had a really clear idea what I wanted to talk about last week when I finished that talk, and picking up the thread of where Alan Watts was taking us in this collection of his talks called Just So that his son recently published. And then the week happened, and then the week goes by, and there are other things to say, and there are other things to say, but it all comes back to this. It all comes back to this. There is a power and a presence that you can access that's within yourself, and it unites us all. Don't forget it unites us all, especially when sometimes we seem in the world to be at each other's throats. What you're seeing in that regard is not what's real. It's not what lasts. Only love lasts. What's happening in the world in terms of conflict between people is pain coming up to be healed. There's a saying that I heard a long time ago that I can't shake, and I bring it up all the time, and it was Terry Whitaker who said this, that love brings everything unlike itself up to be healed. We want to have a planet, we want to get along on it, we want to take good care of our brothers and sisters, and everything that we have by way of resentment or unmet needs, unhealed trauma, all of that comes up and it gets in the way, and it comes out that way. And it comes out as violence, and it comes out as depression and despair. And somebody I was talking to this week said they were out in public and they were wearing a face covering, and somebody said something very rude to them. And scurried off. And this person who was telling me this, they wanted to go after the person who had said something rude to them. Their first response was from the limbic part of the brain. Their first response was reptilian. Their first response was, right, attack and defend and so on. And their second response was, I want to go after that person and confront them and have a conversation about this and why it's not okay to be rude to a stranger in public for any reason. And their third response was, sometimes it takes to three. It's good it gets there at all. Their third response was, that person's in a lot of pain. To have to say that. And their fourth response was kind of funny. Their fourth response was, the whole thing's pointless because if I went after them and said something to them, I'm wearing a face covering, it would sound like rubber, rubber, rubber. So they wouldn't understand anyway. But back to the third one. See, the third one works. That person's in a lot of pain. Now, how much should you take from strangers? Well, you and I were taught this as kids. Don't take anything off anybody. Stand up for yourself. Be strong, you know? But if you go out there with that, I'm not going to take anything off anybody, you almost, in a way, invite a certain quality of conversation so that you have the opportunity to prove yourself right about not taking anything off anybody. Is this true across the board? Not entirely for everyone, because there are victims who experience attack because of the collective consciousness that we're in. But we could take more possession of the creative process than we have by managing our own interior thing and expecting people to be nice to us and supportive of us in some way, and watch what happens. Watch what happens. I believe in wearing face coverings out in public, and it's funny when you do, the other people who have them on, you make eye contact over them, and it's like, we're all right. We're brothers and sisters in this. And if you don't wear one, the people who don't have them on make eye contact, and they're like, we're all right, we're brothers. And so you got two different groups, the face covered and the unface covered, each of them deciding that they're right and so on. And what is that but a metaphor for polarization in society, where there has to be an us and them? The only time in my life when I've needed an us and them, when I've needed there to be a them to my us, is when I have not liked myself hardly at all. That's the only time. When I'm all right with who I am, I'm totally all right with who everybody else is. I may not understand what they're doing. I may not even like what they're doing, approve of what they're doing. But I'm not going to be rude to them about it. I'm not going to approach a stranger in public. I'm not going to, I'm not going to obsess on the faults of others. And that really is the practice of effective spirituality. All this business that we hear about the kingdom of heaven, and all is laid out before us, and beauty and wonders everywhere. It really all comes down to spiritual psychology and the next choice up. It comes down to the next choice that we're going to make about how am I going to respond in this situation? What am I going to do? And we were having a conversation right before the cameras went live today about how many of you are going back to work, like tomorrow, if you haven't already. And workplaces are opening up. And you may not feel safe doing this. You may feel it's premature. There's something to be said for that. But you have an economic necessity to go when they call you. You know about the unemployment numbers and so on. And you may feel really stressed. And schools still aren't open. And if you have kids, what are you going to do with the kids? we're not oblivious to all of this. And if I had answers for you, if I had practical answers of do this or do that, I'd give them to you, and anyone would. And there are resources out there that we do try to pass along information about, you know. But here's the main thing I want you to know, is the world still works, and there's still a power that's got you. There's still a power that's got you, and it's got your kids and their education, and it's got you and your safety, and you and your income, and you and your creativity. It's still got all of that. And all you have to do is give it, to feel that, give it some equal time. Give it a slice of your life. And the ancients called it the Sabbath. You know, this is the Sabbath. We were talking about it this week. We started 3 different classes this week, and we've got a 4th one coming as of Wednesday. So these indentations you see on either side of my head are from headphones on Zoom. Plus this week I think I may go get a haircut or else tie it back like I did in the old days. But in these classes we were speaking about regular spiritual practice. There's a place where you go to be reminded of who you are. And the ancients had a Sabbath time that they created. And we meet on that day that many agree is the Sabbath. Not all agree that Sunday of the week is the Sabbath, but many have decided that's that. And back in the day when creative life began, we said, well, we'll meet on Sunday because this is what spiritual centers do. So most of them, people are off and so on. You know, so we'll meet now. But it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for a 1/7 of your time. And I had the numbers at one point. I don't have them in front of me, but you can work them out at home. See, that's another advantage to being home. You got a calculator handy. You can work them out at home. What is a 1/7 of a day? What is a 1/7 of a year in terms of the amount of time? And it's a lot. You know, it's a lot. It's more maybe than you'd want to give. But what portion of it will you give? Some part of it, a tithe of it, some time that you give to go to the place where nothing has ever been wrong, so that you can come back into the place where it seems like something is always wrong. Where every day of the week there's something wrong. I read the same news feeds you guys do. And here it is, and now there's this, and now there's this. And after this, when this is over, then we may expect that, and so forth. And it's soul crushing if you take it strictly at the intellectual level, strictly at the material level. It's soul burdening, you know. But if you go to a place where nothing has ever been wrong, you're inoculated. That's your vaccine. That's your spiritual vaccine. You're inoculated against the effects of this so that you can pass through this world, not untouched by it, not unscathed by it, but unbeaten by it. You walk through this world and you see the suffering and you say, something is here. God is here. Spirit is here. Source is here. Doing what needs to be done. And I will do what I need to do through my hands and through my consciousness and through my activity in this space. And suddenly there's a power there. A power materializes. It seems to come over you and it rises up within you and it tells you that you're all right. It tells you that you're all right, you're going to be all right. And again, when you know you're going to be all right, your reactions and interactions with other people change. They improve. The quality improves greatly. When you know that you're safe and you're taken care of, you're going to be all right. So Alan Watts speaks about matter and spirit. He talks about the field of forces. He says we're in the midst of the field of forces, but we have tended to think that we must react to the forces that are around us without the recognition that we are that field. We are that field. There is nothing essentially outside of us. We are the force of love. We are the force of spirit in the world at this time. By we, I mean all of us, including the people you disagree with, including the people who disagree with you. Everybody, every last godling is part of this field of forces. There is a unity there. Nature that surrounds us is part of that unity. Feel yourself as being in the midst of this field of forces and realize that it's more than just a reactive thing. You know, we get accused sometimes in the thought of being naive.
I've heard that before. You folks are just naive. You're not aware, you're blissfully unaware of everything that's going on in the world. Well, in the first place, I think, to respond to that, I think that most of us follow the news in the world pretty carefully. I mean, we read, we hear, we don't stick our head in the sand. And naivete suggests a reaction. I'm going to ignore this. It's like the difference between ignorance and obliviousness, you know? If you're oblivious to something, you just don't know about it. If you're ignorant of the thing, you know about it and you're willfully not looking at it. There's a third way, which is turning the other cheek, the redirection of energy. When Jesus talked about turning the other cheek, he didn't just mean so the person can slap you on the other one. He meant you remember the big fat Greek wedding? Yeah, he's the head of the family, but I'm the neck, I turn the head, says the mother of the family. When you turn your head, you turn your attention. When you turn the other cheek, you turn your attention. You turn your attention towards something else. That's an act of deliberate intentionality. That is a subversive act. We are a subversive spiritual teaching. And by subversive, I mean this. The word literally means spoken under. There's a conversation beneath subversive. It's come to mean treasonous or traitorous or seditious or just wanting, the overthrow of things. We want the reversal of things. We want the reversal of consciousness because we've gotten our story completely backward. We got our story completely backward. I was taught by the most well-intentioned people that only what I can explain matters. I was taught by the most well-intentioned people that the world of form is where reality is, and the world of spirit is where poets go to do whatever it is poets do, right, Daniel? And and it's ephemeral and it's vague and it's lovely if you have the time, but meanwhile, there's this. And I was taught to see what happens and then decide how to feel about it. And I was taught a whole number of things by very well-intentioned people who were very kind and good to me, who had been taught the same things by prior generations, in a culture that taught the same things, in schools that taught the same things, that seemed to be giving out very good information, and they had all of it exactly reversed, exactly backward from how it really works. Because how it really works is scary good. How it really works is alarmingly wonderful. How it really works is that you are the architect of forthcoming experience through the management of consciousness, through your own mind, through your own feelings. You decide your own destiny. Specifically, every last detail? No, of course not. Otherwise there'd be no surprises. But generally within certain parameters. And you do that once you know you're doing it, because before you know that you're doing it, you're taking all sorts of input from others and from the world and from the past, and you're using a power obliviously, and sometimes erratically, and sometimes self-harmingly. But when you become aware that you're doing this, you start to use it more wisely. And now you put things in their proper order. And you realize that for things to change, you first have to believe, not simply that they can or that they will, but that they are and that they have changed. You know the thing we do at the end where I say something wonderful is happening through you right now, I feel it in my body, I feel it in my mind. I have to remember the rest of it before we get to that part of the service. Well, the guy who was my first teacher in Science of Mind, Dr. Ben Witter, I got that from him. I copped that from him. He wrote books. He signed his book, Something Wonderful is Happening to You. And I write Something Wonderful has happened, or is happening through you. Well, later on, he changed that. And he put it in the past tense. He says something wonderful has happened. Something wonderful has happened. How nervy is that to declare that it already has happened, that the kingdom of heaven already is at hand? How crazy. And people will say, you're naive. Come to the window and look. Come look at this world. Come look at, have you ever seen so much misery? And look at how people are treating each other out in the world right now. And they're not wrong. And they're not wrong. But something wonderful has happened. If for no other reason, or by no other judgment or scale than the fact that many things were once taken for granted that now appall us in this world. And now we rise up, and now we protest, and we raise our voices in protest. And if you're raising your voice in protest against what you perceive as injustice in this world, may Spirit be with you. And the simple suggestion that I would offer and this teaching would offer to you is to do so primarily from the place of the kind of world you wish to create rather than the kind of world you wish to dismantle. Fall more in love with what you wish to have happen than you're ever shocked by what is happening. How would it look? And we talk about this all the time. But this is new territory for most of us because we're used to describing the problem, examining the problem, weighing the problem, quantifying, qualifying the problem, dancing all around the problem. And somebody asks us, well, what would you put where the problem is? And we're like, well, I'm not really sure. Like, no problem? I would just have no problem there. Spirit doesn't work off an absence, you know? You can't get excited about an absence. You get excited about a presence. So how would it be if the world fell in love with each other? How would it be if people respected and treated each other well? How would it be if we were glad to see our neighbor on a morning? How would it be if everything worked? Where would you put what would you put in the place where the problems now exist in consciousness that you wake up with and that you consider? What would you put in the scroll of headlines that go by in the news feed on your phone? What would you have there instead? Peace breaks out. Everybody's happy today. Is everybody always going to be happy? No, because they're in their process. Sometimes they're grieving, and sometimes they're longing they're yearning for something, you know. Not everybody's always happy, but they can always be fed, and they can always be clothed, and they can always be housed, and they can always have support for their physical and mental and emotional health. And they can, for the most part, remember who they are. Because we, for the most part, are remembering who we are. We forget once in a while who we are, but then we remember that we forgot. And then we're like, oh yeah, I can go there again. I can go there again. Where is it you go? To a place, to a still place in consciousness, like I say, where nothing has ever been wrong, which in this life, in this world, we represent verbally often. We use words. I'm using words right now to try to convey a feeling. I can't describe the feeling fully, but I'm using words. Words are inexact. Alan Watts says that using words to describe reality is like trying to move water with a fork. It's not the most useful thing, but still the water may move from the breeze, you know. We use words, we use symbols, we use music, which is another symbolic form that comes along. And the reason that Reverend Lisa Ryan is on Facebook Live every morning and Reverend David is on every evening is not because they have nothing else to do. They're not getting ministerial, well, they actually are getting ministerial points for it, but the reason they're doing it is so that if you decide, I need somebody to remind me who I am, I need somebody to help remind me what's true, you've got a place you can go, one more place you can go, and there are a lot of them, but you can't have too many. And so here's another place to go, and here's another. And the reason we're doing these classes on Zoom and all of the different groups, David wanted me to give a shout out to Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a wonderful program where you can learn how to publicly speak and be a leader in terms of the speaking work that you do. And I'm fumbling through that, so I'm not a good Toastmaster because I'm like hemming and hawing. I wasn't prepared, and I got his text late and all the rest. But anyway, it's another resource where you can go. And you know what they'll tell you in Toastmasters? I don't know. I don't go. But what I think they'll tell you is something like, I know they will, I'm being silly. They're going to tell you have something to say. You have something to say. And you might sit there and kind of, oh shucks, I don't really. You have something to say. And you know what the more metaphysically inclined amongst Toastmasters will say? You have something to say, and you're about to say it, else you wouldn't be here. What led you to this meeting? What brought you to this place? You're about to say it. And suddenly you feel empowered. And suddenly you have this capacity that you didn't know you had to speak your truth, to stand in your truth. In closing, I read a great line this week. Very short, very Zen-like. Take it and do with it as you will. It says this: don't be the best, be the only. Don't be the best, be the only. I might do it harm by explaining it a little, but it's what I do. So here's what I got from that. Being the best means I'm in competition with others who are doing exactly the same thing. And I have to elbow them out of the way to get, to ascend to the platform of perfection and being best. But if I'm the only one who does what I do, there is no competition. There is no conflict. There are no limits. I'm already winning. I'm already there by being who I am. You were created to be exactly who you are. You were created to be exactly who you are. And that which you are about to become. So, let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere, radiant, everywhere manifesting on this beautiful spring morning. As the flowers have burst into bloom, and most recently mimosa trees, if you've noticed, with their pink, fan-like, feathery-like flowers on this beautiful day. It is so easy to feel the presence of this one life, one mind, one heart pulsing through me. Now I take up my divine inheritance and I work as a co-creator with it, choosing the next thought up, which to wrap with feeling, which to form into a belief, an expectation, an attitude going forward. And I choose to be proactive and meet my world with love. And if I encounter pain that comes to me in a sideways sort of way, asking for its relief, I rely on my knowledge of spiritual psychology to understand that love heals everything. And there is an inexhaustible source of it. And I affirm and now know that everyone finds peace within themselves. I affirm and know right now that there is perfect justice enacting itself on the face of this planet. And I affirm and know that everyone who's going back to work or has been at work, all of the first responders, as we call them, all of the frontline workers, the essential workers, the people who cook and deliver our food, the people who work in shops, the people who work in healthcare, the nurses and the doctors and the technicians, and everyone concerned. All of them are just bathed in light. And the people who are working, the quiet heroes behind the scenes who are working, creating initiatives of support. They're finding ways to thank those who are serving us. they too are strengthened and empowered. And that this experience globally that we're going through now, that is felt acutely individually, is going to yield to a world that's better than the one we had. We're going to fall more in love with each other. We're going to take better care of each other. We're going to find that doing that causes us greater and greater joy than winning any conflict ever did. A lasting peace, a lasting happiness, as promised to us by every faith tradition on the planet, every spiritual teacher of deep merit, everyone has said, there's one. There's one. God is one. Humankind, creation, nature, all is one. So on this sweet Sunday morning, I am enthused, I am empowered, I am reinvigorated to do that which needs to be done within and around myself. And I know the same for all within the sound of my voice, for this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere we turn. Deepest gratitude to that one life I think of as my mother, father, God, and I let it be so, and so it is.
And so it is. And so it is.
Okay, it's going to take me just a minute to get ready for this because I was watching them sing, and I can hear it in my voice. I was watching them sing, and for those of you who don't know, that's a mother and daughter singing. And every now and again, Mom would glance over at her daughter, and just the look of love on her face just blows me away. Okay, so now that I have calmed down, because I'm gonna make her cry too. We're both redheads, so we got it. Okay. I mean, that's the way I want to go into my work. I want to go into my week that way. I want to go into my week carrying that look that Mom gave to daughter. Because, that's the look that Spirit gives to you. Right there. Just the way she lit up. And I love that the daughter was mostly blissfully oblivious of those looks. Because she had her eyes closed and was, voices of angels. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now. No, I'm not. I'm going to start praying now. Okay. It was just really moving moment, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Okay. So I encourage you to take a deep breath and just breathe in all of the love and the wonderment and the wonderful that you have heard today. Breathe it in, and as you relax and release your breath, just breathe out all that stuff you don't need. Just breathe it out. And as we go into this week, as more things open up and we resume something that looks a little bit more normal as we move into our new normal, know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And that love flows through each and every one of us. As it flows through us, it radiates out of us. And as it radiates out of us, it touches other people. And as that love flows through other people, suddenly peace breaks out. So know that Spirit loves you. Know that Spirit is an inexhaustible supply of love, and that it is your gift. So as we move into this new normal and return back into the places that we have not been in a while, and we take the precautions that we choose, that we are safe, we are loved, and we are held in the bosom of that Spirit, and that we will come out of this all right. And I'm grateful to know this, and I'm grateful for this family. And I'm grateful for the privilege of being able to do this for you. And I relax, release, and know that it is so, and so it is.
And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.